Hi everyone, welcome to my session on getting started with AppScript. So I'm Peter. I became an innovator last year during VIA 20, and one of the things I learned after the academy is how to code, mainly to start working on my innovator project. But it's something I found really useful. AppScript is a really approachable language to get started with. If you know some JavaScript, then you'll take to AppScript really easily. So AppScript is really useful for automating stuff. So anything you want to automate with Sheets or Google Workspace, you can pretty much do with AppScript. So I'm just going to share my screen now, and today I'm going to work through a quick example of what you can do with AppScript. So let me share my screen for my other Chromebook down here. So today, actually, I'm just going to drop a link to this in the chat if you want to code along with me, or you can just watch and I'll share the code afterwards. So here's a link to make a copy of this form. I've just created a simple form to ask for permission from parents for a field trip. So we've just got a few questions on here to collect. Is the student allowed to go on a field trip? Student name, parent name, and their email address. I've already got a couple of responses here on the Google Sheet. So let's have a look at the sheet first of all. So I've got a couple of responses, and this is the data I've got on my sheet. And to get started with AppScript, we simply need to go to Extensions, and then we've got a new AppScript icon down here. It used to be under Tools, but now it's moved to Extensions. And when you click that, we get taken into our AppScript view, and we get a little bit of code here written ready for us. And this is the interface where we can type in our code. So let's get started by, first of all, I'm going to delete what's already here and make a new function. So a function is essentially a series of statements you want to execute together to run your program. So to make a function, we just need to type in function. Then let's give our function a name. So I'm going to call this one get data, because it's going to get the data from our sheet. And then I need to put in a couple of brackets. I'll talk more about a bit later. And then to start writing the code in our function, we just need to put in a couple of curly brackets, which will contain all of our code between these two brackets. So the first thing we need to do is connect to our sheet. So I'm just going to put a little comment in here, connect to sheet. So whenever I type in two forward slashes, that means I'm making a comment. So that's not actually any code which is going to execute. It's just a little indicator about what that bit of code is going to do. So to connect to our sheets, I'm going to make a new variable. So to make a variable, I'm going to type in const. And that means it's a constant variable. It can't be changed. Let's give this a name. So I call it SS, short for spreadsheet, and then type in equals. And to connect to our sheet, we need to use the spreadsheet service. So if I start typing in spreadsheet, AppScript will hopefully auto-fill that for me. So we can use spreadsheet app. And to connect to a sheet, I need to tell it which sheet to connect to. So if I hit dot now, I can then use a function against spreadsheet app. And the function I need to use is get active sheet. And if I just finish that off with a couple of brackets, as it's a function I'm calling, I need to provide those brackets there. I'm not actually passing any new parameters to it, but I just need to still specify those. So that's going to select this spreadsheet as it's the active sheet, which is attached to our AppScript. So the next thing after this, I need to make another variable called sheet. And this one is going to grab our sheets within the spreadsheet. So form responses 1. So let's just copy that name, switch back over to here. And now I'm going to use the variable I made earlier. So SS, type in a dot, and I'm going to type in get sheet by name. And now make some new brackets. And now I'm going to provide a parameter to this function. So I just need to type in 2 apostrophes, so single quote marks, and let's give it our name. So form responses 1. So that's now going to select our active spreadsheet and get form responses 1. So good. We've connected to our spreadsheets. Now we want to get some data out of that spreadsheet. So let's type in another comment here. Let's get the data. And I'm going to make another variable. So let's use const again. I'm going to call this one data. And now I'm going to use the last variable made, so sheet. So I'm going to get our active spreadsheet and our active sheet from within there. And to select data, I need to give it a range. So I want to select all of this data. And the easiest way to do that is to use get data range. So that's going to select all of my active data. If I wanted to, I could use another function and actually specify the row and column numbers, but that's the easiest way to get all the active data on that sheet. And now I'm going to use another variable called get values. Let me just type this in again. Okay, so let's get the values and let's see if this is working. So I'm going to use console.log, and if I give it my data variable, I should now be able to run this. Let's save it first. Oh, I just made a mistake up here actually. My mistake. Get active spreadsheet. I typed in sheet by mistake. There we go. That'll work this time. So now if I press run, oh, perhaps if I can type. There we go. Let's run it again. Okay, I've made a mistake here. Spreadsheet app, get active spreadsheet. That should be right. Sheet, get sheet by name. This is what happens when you code live. And let's try running that this time. Hey, so, okay, we've got our data out of our spreadsheet now. So you can see down here, it's pulled it out as some arrays. So we've got our header row here, and then we got our 2 lines of data here. So we've got Ron Weasley, and we got Draco Malfoy. But I don't actually want to get the header row. I just want to get these 2 form responses. So to get rid of our header, we just need to type in data.shift. So the shift function will just remove the header row for us and then just get the data we need. Great, so we've got our data now. The next thing I want to do, because we're ultimately going to create a script which is going to send email responses when people complete this form. So to do that, we need to loop over that data. So we need to get each row at a time and then send an email for that response. So to do that, it's not too difficult. We need to use our data variable we just created, type in dot, and this gives us a list of functions available. And for this one, we're going to use the for each function. So that says essentially for each row of a spreadsheet, we want to do this, which in our case is send an email. So we need to put in some brackets to pass some parameters to that function. And I'm going to put in another set of brackets because I want to get each row, and also going to create another variable called I for which I'll explain in a second actually. And right, so now I want to set up some variables for our data. So the first one I want to set up is grab the email address of a parent. So to do that, I'm going to make another constant variable. I'm going to call this one email. And now I'm going to use this row variable I just created. So type in row. And as it's an array, I need to specify which part of the array I want to get. So as we're using AppScript here, AppScript counts from 0. So now I need to count along these columns. So from 0. So let's start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now if I put in 4 into here, and if I try running this, actually I just need to console log our new variable. If I run this again, and now here we go. So it's listing out both of the email addresses we need. So a couple of more test emails. So now let's set up a couple more variables. So we also need one for the student name, which is column so 0, 1, 2. And let's get the parent name as well. So type in row, and that's column 3. And let's just console log those just to make sure they're working. So let's type in student name. So we can type in multiple variables into here, and it will show us the results in the console. So cool, here we go. Good, so it's putting out all the data there, which we need to send our email. So before we send our email, the first thing we need to do is, if we look back at the form, I only want to send emails, firstly, to people who have actually given permission. So only ones where it says yes. So to do that, we need to use something called an if statement. So let's type in if, and the column we need is, so column 1. So let's say if row column 1. Now I've got to use 3 equal signs here. If that equals yes, then let's just move our code here to within these curly braces. So if I insert it into here, so if that row equals yes, then let's just console log it again. Show me that data. So now we should just see one result. Here we go. So we've just got the email address from this row where it says yes. Cool. Okay, so now let's look at how to send an email. So we need, so to send an email, we can use another service called Gmail app. So a bit like we've got spreadsheet app at the top there, we can also use Gmail app. And this has got a bunch of functions associated with it. So I can do things like create a draft message, I can retrieve messages. But the one we want to use today is send mail. And the AppScript editor interface is really helpful. So if I open up some brackets here, it actually tells me in this pop-up message what fields I need to provide and in what order. So the first one it's highlighting here is recipient. So that's going to be our email address. So if I just type in email, put in a comma, ready for the next one. Okay, now it says we need a subject. So I don't actually have a subject at the moment. So let's make a new variable up here called subject. So another constant variable. So a constant variable never changes. And let's put in a couple of single quotes and let's give it our subject. So I said it's just going to be, so thanks for completing the form. And let's put our subject variable in here now. Okay, now I need to provide a body for the message. So let's make a new variable. This time I'm going to use let, and let lets us modify a variable after it's been made. So let's start off our message just by saying hi. Now let's put in the parent name. So to do that, so I've got my single quotes here for the message, but now I want to bring in a variable. And to do that, I just need to hit plus. and now use our parent name, which we've got here. So let's just copy that and add that into there. And let's put in a couple of carriage returns. So \r will give us a couple of carriage returns. And now let's continue that. So if I just type in body plus equals, which will allow me to add another line type variable, for instance. And now let's just stop in a quick message. So thanks for completing, thanks for approving. Let's add the student name into here. And let's just finish that to go on our field trip. Cool. Okay, so we've got our body now. So let's add this into here. So just type in body. So now we've got our email address, we've got our subject and our body. So now we should be able to send a message. So if I press run again. Okay, it's completed without any errors. And if I head back to my Gmail inbox, one of my many inboxes, I should see, look, I've got a new email. But at the moment, every time I run this code, it's going to send a new email. So we want to track whether an email has been sent or not. So to do that, I'm going to add another field here, just called email sent. And then I'm going to say, so after this, I want to update that field with the date and time an email has been sent. So to do that, I just need to make a date variable. So const again, and I can call this one date. And we can make a new date in AppScript in the same way as JavaScript. So we're just going to type in new date. And now let's write that to the sheet. So to do that, we can type in sheet to grab our active spreadsheet and active sheet from up here. This time we're going to need to use get range to get the specific cell we want to update. And this is where the I variable comes in. So this effectively counts which row we're on. So I'm going to use that down here to specify firstly what row we need to update, and then also select what column we want to update. So that's column, so this is going to be column 6. So slightly confusingly, the spreadsheet app counts columns slightly differently from AppScript. So it actually counts from 1. So this time we need to go for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's try running this, but it probably won't work because, again, AppScript and Sheets counts rows differently. So I actually need to hit +2 here, where we're not counting the header row, and AppScript counts from 0, and Spreadsheet app counts from 1. So now let's try running this again and set a value. And the value we want to set is the date. So we're just getting this variable here, and we're going to set that value into here. So now we should see this update with our date once an email has been sent. And the last thing we need to do is stop that email from being sent every single time. So to do that, we just need to modify our if statement. So we can add, so I'm just using the and sign to add another parameter in here. So we just want to say if row and column 6, if row and column 6 is empty, so I'm just going to put 3 equals marks again, so I want an exact match, and I've just got nothing in between my single quotes here. So if it's empty, it will send an email. So we've now got a working script. I know I've gone really, really fast today, and yeah, I wasn't quite sure how well this is going to fit into 20 minutes, but now I just want to give you a few resources to get started with AppScript. So Firstly, Ben Collins has a great course on an introduction to AppScript, which I did last year. So I'm just going to drop this into the chat for everyone. That's a really good course, and it goes from literally zero knowledge up to being able to do all sorts of cool things with AppScript. And another cool course I found was from Code Academy, and they've got a really good course on an introduction to JavaScript. So that's another really useful resource. I've done both those last year, and it's been so helpful for me in doing lots of cool stuff with AppScript, things like automating things on Google Classroom, automating mal merges. There's so many things you can do it. So yeah, hopefully that is useful to you. I went really fast during that, so apologies. Just wasn't quite sure how much I could fit into 20 minutes. But hopefully it's given you an idea of how easy it is to start building your own code and doing some cool stuff with AppScript.